Military and war movies are a really good place to find some awesome quotes and one-liners, interesting bits of dialogue, and I quite often find that there's a lot of things from some of these movies that I've watched throughout the years that I end up quoting to my friends and my family and just repeating and using them in everyday conversation. So I thought I'd sit down and put together a bit of a compilation of some of my favourites. I think there's about somewhere between 25 and 30, but no particular order. And yeah, these are some of my favourite quotes and bits of dialogue from military and war movies. So hopefully you enjoy what I'm putting on the table here. You just have to excuse my voice a bit. It's probably a bit shitty at the moment. I've had the flu all week and not feeling the greatest and couldn't even talk 24 hours ago at all. So, yeah, so the first quote that I really enjoy, and it's probably not one that's all that well known, it's from a movie called Darby's Rangers. It's an old black and white one about the formation of the US Rangers. And the character's the young junior officer, the lieutenant. He's known as Chowderhead to the men, and he's a bit of a West Point sort of man and not real popular with the guys. Gets him into some pretty tricky situations a couple of times, but I find that this is always something similar to what I use in my workplace when people, I guess, question my ability because I'm a supervisor in my current workplace, and I go and show them how to do a job, and it's kind of always a case of, oh, I didn't realize you could do that. Well, hey, that's why I'm your boss, because I can. So, yeah, it's a very similar situation. The way he goes about it, it really just sets the scene right at the right moment, and definitely one of my moments.
Hey, I think we can jazz up the situation a little. Sergeant, pass the ammo! Come on! Come on, Bishop!
Great idea. How'd you ever think of it?
How do you think I made lieutenant?
The next one for me is probably one of the more famous ones from Aussie military war movies. It's from Breaker Morant, and it's a really well-known quote from Edward Woodward's character, who just absolutely nails the character right throughout the whole fucking movie, man. Like, so good. And just the way he retorts to the pompous Englishman in this situation, it just tells it like it is. It just, even when I first saw this movie, I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. I had no idea what it meant, but it made me go, yeah, like, how good is this? And I reckon you all feel the same way. So here it is, Edward Woodward in Breaker Morant telling us what the rules of engagement are, so to speak.
Your court at the trial of Visser constituted in any way like this, what rule did you shoot him under?
Like this? Oh, no, sir, no, it wasn't quite like this. No, sir, it wasn't quite so handsome. And as for rules, we didn't carry military manuals around with us. We were out on the veldt, fighting the Boer, the way he fought us. I'll tell you what rule we applied, sir. We applied Rule 303.
This one's another pretty well-known one, gets talked about a lot on the online scene, and it's from the movie A Bridge Too Far, one of the best fucking war movies ever made. I don't give a shit what anyone says about the historical accuracy. I couldn't give a damn. It is a fucking awesome movie. And this scene, the engagement here is just really fucking, not only is it good, straight to the point, it's fucking hilarious. When the Brits think that the Germans are actually trying to surrender to them, and it's actually the other way around. The Germans are trying to get them to surrender because they've pretty much got the Brits fucked. So, yeah, it's pretty funny. It's really good. Enjoy. And I got to say, the way that the young German reacts to it is just fucking hilarious. It's like there's nothing really I can say about this right here. Like seriously, I'm just gonna walk away.
That's far enough! We can hear you from there!
Rather an interesting development, sir.
My general says there is no point in continuing this fighting. He is willing to discuss a surrender.
Tell him to go to hell.
We haven't the proper facilities to take you all prisoner. Sorry. What? We'd like to, but we can't accept your surrender. Was there anything else?
Of the many, many, many memorable quotes from the Band of Brothers series, and even just as many by Garnier, this one in particular is the one that always makes me piss my pants laughing. He's had a bit of a little, I guess, bit of a banter session since meeting Hall from, I think, A Company. Don't quote me on that. And yeah, he thinks Hall's a bit of a cowboy and doesn't really like him that much. And then in this situation, Hall just decides, well, fuck you, I'm going to give it back to you and see how you like them apples. And he suddenly earns Garnier's respect. And like, if you've been around anyone in the military or you've been in the military, you know how this works. They're gonna have a crack at you and see how you handle the banter. And if you can give it back or you can cop it, you are instantly going to be earning that respect. And that is exactly what happens here. Still makes me laugh. I've seen it a gazillion times. And I'm going to watch it another gazillion times more. But it also makes me smile just at that level of understanding that takes place with Garnier right there and then. Just really cool.
Hiya, cowboy!
Shut your fucking Jimmy trap, gonorrhea.
Go right there, kid.
Jesus, you got a whole crop with...
So this is another one from Band of Brothers, Herbert Sobel, who, yeah, I had a bit of a chat about him in one of my earlier videos where I had 20 pieces of shit from military and war movies. I still think he's a piece of shit, but like David Schwimmer, you know, Ross from Friends, that dickhead, he fucking nails the scene here. He owns this scene. It's one of the best scenes in the whole series, in my opinion. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And just his conversation with Malarkey, just it's so good. Like, I've always wanted to meet someone called Malarkey so that I can say the same thing. Unfortunately, I haven't had an opportunity yet, but you never know.
Name. Malarkey. Donald G.
Malarkey. Malarkey's slang for bullshit, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Rust on the butt plate hinge spring, private bullshit, revoked.
So this one's from Full Metal Jacket, and I wasn't going to include anything from that movie because I could basically include half the movie from start to the middle with the drill sergeant and yeah, Pyle and Joker and a few of the other characters. Some of the banter in the barracks is just fucking hilarious. And from all reports, and I'm not American, I've never been in the American military, so I don't know from firsthand, but from all reports that I've had from veterans, seen in a lot of videos, guys like Dale Dye and a lot of historical directors, like Lee Ermey just fucking nails it, gets it spot on, and tells it exactly how it is. Now, I'm probably going to get banned from YouTube for this one because there is some homophobic stuff in there, and there's a lot of racist stuff that I kind of left out as well. But, I mean, look, it was a sign of the times. That's how people spoke back then. I think it was the late 60s, even in the mid 80s when this movie was made. People still, that's how they bantered. And this one fucking nails it.
How tall are you, Private?
Sir, 5'9", sir!
5'9". I didn't know they stacked shit that high. You trying to squeeze an inch in on me somewhere, huh?
Sir, no, sir!
Bullshit. It looks to me like the best part of you ran down the crack of your mama's ass and ended up as a brown stain on the mattress. I think you've been cheated. Where in the hell are you from anyway, Private?
Sir, Texas, sir!
Holy dog shit. Texas, only steers and queers come from Texas, Private Cowboy. And you don't much look like a steer to me, so that kind of narrows it down. Do you suck dicks?
Sir, no, sir!
Are you a Peter Puffer?
Sir, no, sir!
I'll bet you're the kind of guy that would fuck a person in the ass and not even have the goddamn common courtesy to give him a reach around. I'll be watching you.
Yeah, this one, it's probably a little bit of an unexpected one that a lot of people may not have triggered to, but I did the very first time I heard it. Now, I'm a sports coach, so let's just say I coach junior football, and have a kid come up to me and say, "Hey, the other team is getting the ball and they're kicking it," and I'll turn around and say, "Well, why don't you go get the ball and kick it?" That's exactly the same scenario that happens in this scene here. It's like, well, they're shooting at us. Well, mate, shoot the fuck back. That's the idea. So, yeah, this is a really good one. And look, it's a fucking great movie too. I really love it. Every veteran I've spoken to resonates with this. I have not had a single conversation where they've said to me, "No, this is bullshit." Obviously, the movie plays a bit fast and loose with some of the historical fact. But, hey, it's Americans making a movie for other Americans. So the Malaysians and the Pakis and whoever else that were there, the Americans don't really care. I care, of course, because, I want to see everyone. But, hey, America, fuck yeah, right?
They're shooting at us! They're shooting at us! We'll shoot back!
All right. Well, this is quite possibly my all-time favorite movie. Like, the king of the one-liners, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Colonel John Matrix in Commando from 1985, I'm going to say. I love this movie. I regularly quote this movie. My now 13-year-old daughter quotes some of the scenes from this movie. And I couldn't just pick one, so I've picked a couple of my favourites and just bunched them in together. His interactions with Sully, like, so good. And at the end with Bennett, like, I still quote that one in regular conversations, and people have no fucking idea what I'm talking about until I make them watch the movie, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get it. It makes sense." Great movie. If you haven't watched it, and if you haven't, what are you doing watching this? Because surely you have. So get out there and watch it if you haven't. Some great scenes. And there is one that I've left out, but Arnie even chucks in the old "I'll be back" before he used it in the Terminator. So there it is.
You're a funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Any carry-on luggage?
Just him.
Feature film. Your flight attendants are Susan and Lance, and I'm Vic. We're here to make...
Do me a favor. Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired. Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
What'd you do with Sully?
I let him go.
You scared, motherfucker? Well, you should be, because the Green Beret's gonna kick your big ass.
I ate Green Berets for breakfast. Let off some steam, Bennett.
Now, I've chosen this one from Enemy at the Gates. It's not a real massively quotable movie. I guess you could quote some of Zaitsev's little things he says when he's about to take a shot. When he's with his grandfather at the start of the movie. Maybe one or two others, but they're not really memorable. But this one by Ron Perlman's character. Look, Ron Perlman's a really great actor. who's been shoved into some really shitty movies in recent times, and he had a shit character in Sons of Anarchy. It was a bit of a shit show to watch anyway. Sue me. I don't care. I didn't like it. And yet he is good in this. His accent's bullshit. Like, fuck it. Who cares? Like, I guess the majority of people who watch this don't speak Russian, and they probably don't know how Russian people speak when they speak English. So we'll just take it with a grain of salt. I have Russian heritage, and I wouldn't have a fucking clue what they were saying if they were speaking in Russian, because I've been raised speaking English. So, yeah, but like, I guess the thing that really catches me about this scene is that and I've watched a lot of Russian war movies. I'm assuming a lot of you genuine war movie guys and girls have as well. They're really fucking patriotic. They're full of propaganda. They're all, for the might of the fatherland and all that sort of bullshit. If this one turns it around the other way and says, well, you know what? We lived in a pretty fucked up regime here in the old Soviet Republic back in the day. And this is how it really was for some of us. And yeah, he actually sounds really convincing doing it again, aside from the fucked up accent. But yeah, here it is.
After the Germans invaded us, it wasn't the same atmosphere anymore.
Threw my ass in prison. What were you doing in Germany, huh? Excuse me, says I, but it was Comrade Stalin who sent me there. Don't bring our glorious leader into your treachery. Confess, spy bastard, confess! And bang! Bang, bang, bang! Well, there wasn't a sickle, but there was a hammer. And bang. Knocked out all my teeth.
This one, you don't even have to be a war movie guy or girl to have watched this. I mean, I remember it must have been about 1984 or 5. It was on TV where I lived, and it was a massive event. I went to school the next day, and every kid in my school was walking around going, you have to think in Russian. And God knows I tried. As I said, it's part of my historical background, but yeah, no luck in that regard for me. But every time I see the topic of this movie come up online, Reddit, Facebook, anywhere, Twitter, this is the first line everyone says. And Eastwood, it's probably not one of his better movies. And when you watch this as a kid, it's awesome. And then you go back and watch it as an adult and think, yeah, I don't know. But this one line, it resonates. It sticks in your memory. It doesn't go away. It's fucking awesome.
Must think in Russian. Think in Russian. Выпускай дифтерия.
I feel like Good Morning Vietnam is a bit of an underrated movie in war movie circles in today's day and age. When it came out in the late 80s, I'm going to say 88, might have been 87, it was like one of the best movies, number one movies out there. It was on the, that wave of Vietnam War movies that were out at the time, but it was different. It was part comedy, part sort of drama. Robin Williams nailed the fuck out of his character, Cronauer. He's funny. He's hilarious. He's extremely, just to the point with some of his officers. And this one in particular, with the lieutenant, I think, he just puts him back in his place. And just, I've got to admit, I've always wanted to drop this line to one of my bosses in the workplace, and probably been a little bit too scared of getting the ass, but yeah. And then the colonel on the way out, when he gets into the elevator, just absolutely puts the cream on top. Fucking hilarious. Gold. Absolute gold, Jerry.
You know, you're in more dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history.
More dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history. That's funny.
Yeah, this one in Jarhead. Again, another movie that when you talk to just regular guys, they're kind of like, it's not really that real. Doesn't do it for me. It's not really realistic of what really happened. And then you talk to guys who are there and they're like, fuck, man, that's what it was. A lot of that is straight to the point. And a lot of them tell me about this one particular scene where they've got the briefing with the lieutenant colonel, and it brings that whole Marine bravado of I can't hear you, and then they speak up louder, and yeah, well, if you send it, you know what happens next. You're going to see it in a couple of seconds anyway. I have dropped that line a couple of times, and then kind of thought, wow, it's probably not PC, and it's 2023 now as I record this, but I don't give a fuck. It's funny. It hits a nail on the head. It's good.
Attention on deck!
Take your seats. Good afternoon, Marines. Good afternoon, sir. Jesus, did you just land in a war zone or a funeral parlor? Good afternoon, Marines. Good afternoon, sir. Ooh, I just felt my dick move.
So, Kelly's Heroes, it's obviously one of the more famous and more popular, I'm going to call it a military movie, because even though it's set in a war, it's got soldiers, they're fighting. They're not really fighting a war per se, but either way, fuck it, it's a war movie. Oddball, apart from the fact that his character is probably about 25 years too early on the scene for real life. No one seems to be offended by that. One or two people maybe, but it's pretty funny. But as well, Telly Savalas' character, Telly Savalas is a great actor. He's in a lot of war movies. He, other than The Dirty Dozen, where he plays a role of Maggot, who I've spoken about in that previous 20 pieces of shit from military and war movies video. He was a piece of shit in that movie, but fuck, he acted well. And he does in everything. I mean, Battle the Bulge. Without him, a Pretty Ordinary movie would be even worse. And again, he nails a character. And as well, the German tank commander, he's just so deadpan and straight, absolutely flat bats the Americans. But they're talking him into what's about to happen next. And then what happens at the end of the scene, that, more so than the conversation, that absolutely hits the spot perfectly. To me, it's the best scene in the movie. And I quite often just indulge in it as a little bit of a guilty pleasure on its own without watching the rest of the movie.
Cigarette?
No smoke. The fuel system is rotten. We have gasoline all over the place.
Sorry. Hey, look, Max, you and us, we're just soldiers, right? We don't even know what this war's all about. All we do is we fight and we die, and for what? We don't get anything out of it. In about a half an hour, the whole American army's gonna be coming down that road. Why don't you do yourself a great, big, fat favor, huh? Now get the hell out of here.
I have orders. This bank isn't to fall into the hands of the American army.
Sergeant, this bank's not gonna fall in the hands of the American army. It's gonna fall in our hands. You see, we're just a private enterprise operation.
You, the American army.
No, baby, we ain't. You know what's inside that bank, man? There's $16 million worth of gold in that bank, sweetheart.
It's about 65 million marks.
And Sergeant, all you have to do to have an equal share of this money is crank this turret around and blow a hole in that door.
This one from 1949's Battleground, which is by far the best movie about the Battle of the Bulge, possibly in my top 5 war movies of all time. Watched it with my 14-year-old son not that long ago, and even he was transfixed by it. So much to the point where he actually went, after watching this engagement with the Germans and the Americans discussing a potential surrender, he actually went and looked up if that's what General McAuliffe really said, and was quite impressed that the movie got it right. And to the point, if you know anything about World War II history, you know this really happened, and this movie gets it right and does it well.
For the suffering, we have given you 2 hours to consider before raining destruction upon you. We do not understand General McAuliffe's answer.
I'd be glad to repeat it. The answer is nuts.
Nüsse.
Ist das im negativen oder positiven Sinn?
Is that a negative or an affirmative reply?
Nuts is strictly negative.
I recently uploaded a review of this movie, The Odd Angry Shot. It's an Aussie Vietnam War movie. It was one of the very first movies made about the Vietnam War after the conflict ended. It's only sort of 4 or 5 years after Australia ceased their involvement. And it's about an Australian SAS regiment. Lots of great Aussie actors, some who went on to become pretty well known on the world stage. You got Brian Brown. Everyone knows what he's been in. Really, lots of movies. John Jarrett, who played Mick Taylor in Wolf Creek. And Graham Kennedy, famous Australian comedian, who you can see in this scene where Kennedy and Brown are just getting the shit knocked out of them, like mentally, by the Padre, who they're expecting to overreact and carry on like they've given him the most dirtiest, disgusting gift of all time, and he just deadpans it. He just plays it straight, and their faces just absolutely hilarious. And again, this is probably the most famous scene from this movie that I have now recently found out that a lot of people around the world are really massive fans of it, not just my fellow Aussies. So, yeah, if you haven't watched or listened to my review, it's here on my YouTube channels, Zero Error Reviews, which you already know because you're in there now, or also on Spotify, also Zero Error Reviews. It's only been up for a couple of weeks, so get in there and have a watch or a listen, because I do mention this scene in the video and the podcast as well. Cheers.
On behalf of ourselves and other members of the unit present, we would like to offer you this small token of our esteem, which comes with our profound gratitude for all the wonderful things you've done to make our stay in this country just a little more enjoyable. Andre?
Boys, this is one of the nicest moments of my life. It's not easy being a padre, trying to bring God's word to angry groups of men whose sole business is fighting wars. But I would like you to understand that it's at moments like these that an outsider, and even though I've been in this man's army for over 15 years, at times I still feel an outsider, feel as though he has a place alongside you.
I feel almost
In
ashamed.
closing, I would just like to say that this is the most well-constructed wanking machine I've ever seen. Thanks, fellas. Have to go, fellas. God bless you.
Hooray for Padre! Hooray at last! Hooray for Padre! He's awake at last!
This one's from the movie Patton, starring George C. Scott as the man himself. And look, I don't know a great deal about Patton or how he spoke or whatnot, but from what I could gather, just from what I read online and what a lot of people have said, that other than the fact that his voice is completely different, it looks a bit like him and he nails the mannerisms and the characters. And this scene, just to me, says everything about Patton, the man that I know of. He was a student of military history. You know, he's pretty well known for having studied Erwin Rommel's tactics, among others, and knowing a lot about ancient military and battle history. And yeah, this absolutely hits the nail on the head in that regard. And just seeing, I think it's Bradley, his look on his face and his utter disbelief that they've just gone off the road to this 2,000-year-old battleground to reminisce, while Patton puffs his chest out and then says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I was here 2,000 years ago." It's just gold.
Hold it. Turn right here.
Sir, the battlefield is straight ahead.
Please don't argue with me, Sergeant. I can smell a battlefield.
He was out here just yesterday, George.
It's over there. Turn right, damn it. It was here. The battlefield was here. The Carthaginians defending the city were attacked by 3 Roman legions. Carthaginians were proud and brave, but they couldn't hold. They were massacred. Arab women stripped them of their tunics and their swords and lances. The soldiers lay naked in the sun. 2,000 years ago. I was here. You don't believe me, do you, Brad?
There's always a lot to take in from watching Platoon. Yeah, like there are some good memorable quotes from a few of the different characters. Johnny Depp's character drops a couple. the guy from Scrubs. They call him, I forget what they call him, but his character says a couple of interesting things, and Junior, and yeah, but this one with Chris Taylor, Charlie Sheen's character, it's just the whole coming of age, just opening up right before your eyes, and his acceptance now into the rest of the platoon as he's not just a green piece of shit fucking new guy. He's been shot. He's been, well, I'm not going to say the rest because it's quoted in the movie, but yeah, he's now one of us. Let's let him in.
What you doing in the underworld, Taylor?
Well, this here ain't Taylor. Taylor been shot. This man here is Chris. He been resurrected.
First Blood, the first of the Rambo movies. This scene where Teasel and his fuckwit deputies meet Colonel Troutman for the first time, and Troutman sort of says, listen, boys, you've bitten off a bit more than what you can chew, so now you either chew like fucking hell or you let me take care of it. And Teasel trying to, he's a sheriff, he's just trying to sort of puff his chest out and go, well, hey, I'm the fucking alpha male here, mate. Let me handle the situation. And Troutman's like, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Absolute classic bit of engagement. And yeah, we all know what happens next and beyond.
Whatever possessed God in heaven to make a man like Rambo?
God didn't make Rambo. I made him.
Who the hell are you?
Sam Trotman. Colonel Samuel Trotman.
Look, we're a little busy this morning, Colonel. What can I do for you?
I've come to get my boy.
Your boy?
I recruited him. I trained him. I commanded him in Vietnam for 3 years. I'd say that makes him mine.
I wonder why the Pentagon would send a full-bird colonel down here to handle this.
The Army thought I might be able to help.
Well, I don't know in what way. Rambo's a civilian now. He's my problem.
I don't think you understand. I didn't come here to rescue Rambo from you. I came here to rescue you from him.
Well, we all appreciate your concern, Colonel. And we'll try to be extra careful.
I'm just amazed that he allowed any of your posse to live.
Is that right?
Strictly speaking, he slipped up. You're lucky to be breathing.
That's just great.
Anyone who's been in the military or even has had a leadership role anywhere, workplace or whatnot, will resonate with this scene from Saving Private Ryan. You've got Riven having a bit of a banter sesh with Captain Miller, wanting to know why he doesn't gripe in front of the men. And yeah, Miller just nails it. Like, that's how it is, You don't gripe in front of the men below you. And then, yeah, his response to Riven's question about how he would respond had the major or a major asked him the same question. And, yeah, that's 1,000% how any captain, lieutenant, whatever, junior officer would respond. And yeah, Mellish and Carpaccio at the end, just absolutely bit of a cherry on top there, gold.
Hey, so Captain, what about you? I mean, you don't gripe at all?
I don't gripe to you, Riven. I'm a captain. There's a chain of command. Gripes go up, not down, always up. You gripe to me, I gripe to my superior officer, so on, so on, so on. I don't gripe to you. I don't gripe in front of you. You should know that as a ranger.
I'm sorry, sir, but let's say you weren't a captain, or maybe I was a major. What would you say then?
Well, in that case, I say this is an excellent mission, sir, with an extremely valuable objective, sir. Worthy of my best efforts, sir. Moreover, I feel heartfelt sorrow for the mother of Private James Ryan. I'm willing to lay down my life and the lives of my men, especially you, Riven, to ease her suffering.
He's good.
I love him.
Winter Soldier's one of the best war movies ever made, in my opinion, and a lot of people seem to agree with me. And I think everybody agrees that Sergeant Major Plumley, played by Sam Elliott, one of the best fucking actors of all time, one of my all-time favourites, and I'm going to do a video just about him sooner or later. One of the best characters in war movie history, in my opinion. A lot of people agree, so I'm going to take that as a fact. Yeah, just sit back and enjoy it. There's a couple of his moments here in a row. Just amazing. Brilliant acting, brilliant scripting. Just can't fault any of it. It's awesome.
Good morning, Sergeant Major.
How do you know what kind of goddamn day it is?
Beautiful morning, Sergeant Major.
Are you a fucking weatherman now?
Called every woman in the tribe mother. Every older warrior, they called him grandfather. Now, the point here is that they fought as a family.
Any of you some bitches calls me grandpa. I'll kill you.
I wonder what was going through Custer's mind when he realized it. Led his men into a slaughter.
Sorry, Custer was a pussy. You ain't.
When I was a kid in probably the early to mid 80s, the Big Red One was one of my favourite movies. I thought it was great. You know, the All American Boys. We had it on beta, not even VHS. We had it on beta because, yeah, that's just what we had. It had the remote on the cord as well, which was pretty laughable when you look back in hindsight. But, hey, that was the utmost of cool back then. And I used to watch this all the time. And, look, there's a lot of Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker, some of his lines early in the movie, like the one about the only time he uses his right hand is when he shoots his rifle and plays with his dick. And some of the others are pretty funny. But I just like this scene. And look, to be honest, Lee Marvin's character in later years in this movie, and Lee Marvin's a fucking awesome actor. He's great in a lot of movies. And this one, it doesn't really do it for me. I just find him a bit of a fuckwit, to be honest. But in this scene, when Smitty gets his balls blown off, yeah, I got no words. It's so good. So here it is.
Now you'll live, Smitty. You're the tripwire of a mine. They're not designed to kill you, just to castrate you.
Castrate me?
Hey, here it is. I found it.
Oh my God!
Just one of your balls, Smitty. You can live without it. That's why they gave you two.
All right, in the Dirty Dozen, there's probably a lot of good stuff throughout the first two movies. This is the one that I just keep going back to. Like, there's the earlier part in the lineup where all the, I don't know, what are we calling them? Prisoners? Probably still prisoners. The men, the mission men, whatever. They just refer to themselves as numbers. And when I've referred to their characters in other videos, I always refer to them by the number and then the character name. And I guess that sort of, yeah, that's probably a good bit of scripting there. That's something we all remember. But it's this subsequent scene that I quite like. I don't think many people are going to agree with me that this is one of the better scenes across the first two movies. I don't even care about the other 2 or 3, however many there was. But yeah, I just think there's a bit of humour, there's a bit of banter, and the other thing too, seeing Lee Marvin's character Reisman with the grease gun with the 2 taped up magazines in it, that was something that he was a Marine in, I believe, the Pacific Theatre, and that was something that the Marines did quite a lot with their Thompsons, from what I can gather. But hey, he's got a grease, same deal, and even though they completely get the rate of fire and the sound of the grease gun wrong just before this scene takes place, I don't care. I like this scene. It's good. Puts the dickhead, I think he's also a major, back in his place, and he's these brown nosing men get shown where the door is. Really good. So yeah, just sit back and watch and enjoy.
I'm with the Major all the way.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
You must be out of your mind.
It might seem that way. Take it all back, Colonel. They aren't pretty, and they can't fight.
Hey, Colonel, I hear they don't even use parachutes. They're so sweet about 10 minutes. Put some money in the hat. Hey, Colonel, do you cry, babies?
Don't just stand there, pick it up.
Stick around for tea. Don't let the door hit.
Come again, Colonel. Stop by any time, bozo.
So Stripes. Yeah, it's not a war movie. It's a military movie, 1000%. It's a fucking comedy. It's full of one-liners. It's full of funny conversations. It's hilarious. Sergeant Holker, as much as you hate him, you fucking love him because he nails every scene he's in. I reckon he's better than Bill Murray's character. Forgot his name. Doesn't matter because he's not really pivotal to this scene. And this scene involves Francis, aka Psycho. And if you've watched this movie even once and you haven't delivered the line that Hulker delivers, then you haven't really watched this movie.
Next. The name's Francis Sawyer. But everybody calls me Psycho. Any of you guys call me Francis, and I'll kill you. You just made the list, buddy. And I don't like nobody touching my stuff. So just keep your meat hooks off. If I catch any of you guys in my stuff, I'll kill you. Also, I don't like nobody touching me. Now, any of you homos touch me, and I'll kill you.
Lighten up, Francis.
So this one's something a little bit different. Casablanca, there's a lot of, I guess, well, maybe not a lot, but there's some other more well-known famous lines that everybody copies and have a bit of a Mandela effect with the played against Sam line, I think it is. I can't remember what the actual line is, but apparently everyone gets it wrong. But this little conversation between Blaine and the Germans, it just does it for me, especially the bit about New York. And just, yeah, when they hand in the dossier and his first comment, pure gold. Really funny. So, yeah, not a movie I've watched very often, maybe once or twice in my life, and it's not something I plan to sit down and watch too often again. But not having watched it for a very long time, this scene still stuck in my memory when I was thinking about what to put in this video. So here it is.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? Unofficially, of course.
Make it official if you like.
What is your nationality?
I'm a drunkard.
And that makes Rick a citizen of the world.
I was born in New York City, if that'll help you any.
I understand that you came here from Paris at the time of the occupation.
Well, there seems to be no secret about that.
Are you one of those people who cannot imagine the Germans and their beloved Paris?
It's not particularly my beloved Paris.
Can you imagine us in London?
When you get there, ask me.
Diplomatist. How about New York?
Well, there are certain sections of New York, Major, that I wouldn't advise you to try to invade.
Uh-huh.
The Lost Battalion, made-for-TV movie, had Ricky Schroeder from, I think he was in a TV show called Silver Spoons back in the 80s. I never watched it, but yeah, who cares? I don't think anyone wants to admit to watching it nowadays anyway. But yeah, he plays Major Whittlesey, who's not a very popular character with his superior officers or with any of the other officers back at the command post, HQ, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, just prior to this scene, he does deliver a couple of cool lines to the new lieutenant who's just arrived. But it's this little description by Rosen, and you're going to hate me. I've forgotten the other guy's name, who just give the new recruits, the replacements, a bit of a rundown on what to expect and what's going on. And just their level of banter between each other, it's kind of like one's the comedian, the other's a straight guy, and they just feed off each other perfectly. And everybody who's seen this movie likes it, and they all quote this whenever discussion about the movie comes up online. It is one of the most underrated war movies ever made. And up until recently, like up until say 5 or 6 years ago, as far as I know, was probably one of the few movies about the American involvement in the First World War. Obviously, Sergeant York is another one that I can think of off the top of my head with Gary Cooper, I think. I haven't seen that for a long time, but yeah, this one, the Lost Battalion, it is, again, like a couple of the others I've already mentioned, this easily goes into my top echelon of war movies. And for a movie that was made on a pretty low budget, direct to TV, yeah, you can't top it for value. And this scene in particular, it just tickles my fancy really well, and I guess everyone else's. So here it is.
This is a French chocho.
Chosha.
It's a piece of garbage. Don't worry about it.
Leave it to henchmen in Hollingshead.
Don't worry about mortars, tanks, and artillery.
We don't have any of that either.
Basically, we're mud crunchers.
Gravel agitators.
Infantry. God almighty! That's just some traveling salesman throwing iron cigars.
German artillery.
Which brings me to stuff. There are two kinds of stuff.
Stuff going out, ours. Stuff coming in, theirs.
Mud crunchers must learn to judge different kinds of stuff. If you hear something that whistles and knocks, that's Herr Whiz-Bang. Get on the ground. Sometimes Herr Whiz-Bang brings along his lady friend, Minnie Wuffer.
Minenwerfer.
Minnie Wuffer sounds like one of those whining hot corn ladies on 10th Avenue.
Nah, it's more like the BRT coming out of the tubes.
The thing is, they're real hard to judge. So just hit the ground anytime you hear something like that. And don't worry if it hits you, because they got a lot of other stuff, like Jack Johnson's, Whimpering Willies.
GI cans, airplane bombs, machine guns.
And all sorts of potato masher grenades. Don't worry about any of it, because it all comes down to that.
When you go face to face with a mud-crunching hiney bastard, with one of these at the end of his rifle, you better stick it in him before he sticks it in you.
That, you gotta worry about.
The original Top Gun movie, full of one-liners, full of comedy, most of it by Goose. Maverick plays a bit of a straight man to a certain extent to Goose's comedian. And look, without Goose, this movie wouldn't be half the movie it was, and it was a great movie. Anthony Edwards, the actor who played Goose, the guy he's one of the all-time greats. I don't care what anyone else says. yeah, just the way he nails Goose. And I mean, look, his son in the sequel, Rooster, they try, they just can't hit that same sweet spot with him, like whether it's poor scripting, poor acting, or whatever. They just don't get there. And this one in particular, the line Goose delivers to Slider, I say it all the time. Yeah, like most of these movies, I guess they make up a whole big portion of the banter I use in real life.
Hey, Slider. Thought you wanted to be a pilot, man. What happened?
Goose, you're such a dickhead. Whose butt did you kiss to get in here, huh?
Well, the list is long but distinguished.
Yeah, well, so's my Johnson.
The Anzac series that came out in the 1980s, one of the best First World War, in fact, one of the best of any war television series ever made. Not made on a massive budget from memory, but did have some really big actors, Paul Hogan, John Blake, a few others. And I'm going to do a video on John Blake coming soon because unfortunately his life was tragically cut short, but he was in the Anzacs, The Light Horseman, and one other war movie, I'm pretty sure. I'll watch this space. And look, Paul Hogan's character, Reeves, delivers some of the absolute comedy gold throughout this 5-part series, but it's actually not him on this occasion, where you get the new officer, Mr. Earnshaw, who's a politician's son trying to sort of make a name for himself and, I guess, assert his authority because he's never really, I guess, been on the bottom of the barrel before. And he's come to war thinking, okay, I can just waltz in and do whatever the fuck I want and tell everyone what to do, boss him around. And he learns pretty quickly that that's not how things work on the front in 1917. And his superior officer puts him back in his place. And, explains to him when the shooting happens, which is, quite comical. And it is a really Aussie way of putting things as well.
You tell him we're very, very sorry, but we have a new officer that didn't know the rules.
Entschuldigung, es tut uns leid, aber wir haben einen neuen Offizier und er kennt sich noch nicht aus.
This way, Mr. Earnshaw. Now, this is not the officers' training school, Mr. Earnshaw. This is the real war. We and Fritz have an arrangement. Nobody, Mr. Earnshaw, nobody fires before 16:30 hours. Now, for the past 5 months, we have been shot at every hour that God sends. Now, we get shot at by arrangement, Mr. Earnshaw. We rather like it that way. We intend to keep it that way.
So now maybe we can all get some sleep around here, eh?
So a little bit of history on the movie Zulu, so the battle at Rorke's Drift. So one of my, let's just say, great-grand-uncle, second, third, fourth, fifth cousins from back in the day who married into another family, married the son of a Rorke's Drift veteran who was decorated in the battle. So I've known this since I was a kid. I couldn't really tell you too much about it, and I don't think their actual character really got as much of a role in the movie as they probably did in real life, but that's the way it goes. That happens. I don't think anyone's offended by it in the extended family. So I've watched this movie a lot. I remember my dad watching it with me a lot when I was a kid and saying, family connection, rah, 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 all that sort of bullshit. And, there are some really good one-liners, and I believe there's an updated modern version where one of the wounded soldiers in the infirmary refers to the Zulus as savages. I believe that may have been taken out in some modern updated versions, which, part probably doesn't hurt the movie that much, but it also, in the same hand, we don't need to be offended by everything. It's not the worst thing anyone ever said about an enemy in a war. I'm sure the Zulus probably didn't give a shit. They would have just, said, well, fuck you, now you're dead. And they did that to a lot of British redcoats in this instance. But yeah, this scene is one of the lighter moments of the movie. And it just shows that in the face of massive adversity, these British, or some of them are Welsh soldiers, just don't lose their sense of humour and their ability to hit that banter sweet spot. And again, another highly quoted movie scene amongst fans of the war movie genre.
You think the Welsh can't do better than that, Howard?
Well, they've got a very good base section, mind. But no top tenors, that's for sure.
This scene from the movie Buffalo Soldiers, it's probably not a very popular movie in war movie circles. I think there's a few ex-service people who question the historical or general accuracy of the movie and whether or not that was how things were in occupied West Germany. It's a movie. It's not a documentary. All right, river counters, just look the other way. I really enjoyed this movie. I always have. I've watched it a lot. Joaquin Phoenix plays a great character. And as much as I hate illegal drug use, the scenes that really, really are the funniest in this movie is when you see the soldiers high on whatever shit they're high on. And this particular one, when I was compiling this video together, I actually pissed myself laughing to the point where I had to actually hit pause and gather my thoughts and senses and reassess where I was at, because it's pretty fucking funny.
I told you to make the left across that field. I did, man. I went left.
What was that bump?
Oh, shit, man. We just ran over a car, man. We just squashed a car.
What kind of car?
A Volkswagen, a fucking Beetle.
Oh no. We squashed the Beetle.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up with one that's not funny. It's not it's no real banter. It's not really, I guess, threatening to anyone, or I have made a meme out of this quote from, I guess, Captain Spears, but it's so yeah, this is from Band of Brothers. So I've gone back to the well a bit here, and like Spears, like in real life, the man was a fucking legend. I mean, shit, the things he did, like we're talking Audie Murphy level of winning the war off his own gun, so to speak. Yeah, but this particular one where he just sums it up, like, there's always those sort of Chinese whispers and little behind the scenes discussions about, did he kill the prisoners? Did he steal from the Germans? Did he do this? Is he really, what we think he is, or is it just a bit of gossip? And he just turns around to Lipton and says, well, have a listen to this. And it's pretty inspiring. And to me, honestly, I've used a similar version of this to describe myself when people have spread little rumors about me that aren't necessarily true, that actually make me look like I'm having a much more enjoyable and exciting life than I'm really living. So I'm actually pretty boring, to be honest.
You want to ask me, don't you?
Ask you what, sir?
You want to know if they're true or not, the stories about me. You ever notice with stories like that, everyone says they heard it from someone who was there. And then when you ask that person, they say they heard it from someone who was there. It's nothing new, really. I bet if you went back 2,000 years, you'd hear a couple of centurions standing around him yakking about how Tertius lopped off the heads of some Carthaginian prisoners.
Well, maybe they kept talking about it because they never heard Tertius deny it.
Maybe that's because Tertius knew there was some value to the men thinking he was the meanest, toughest son of a bitch in the whole Roman legion.
Hope you enjoyed it. Now, if I've missed one that you think should be in, or you reckon that I've got one of them wrong or whatever, hit me up in the comments, send me a message, get on the Facebook page, Still Have Productions, or on Instagram as well. Pretty sure we've got a TikTok, but yeah, not a real big one on that myself. Get a little bit of help from a much younger family member in that regard. So yeah, just let me know, and yeah, give this a like if you like it, and subscribe because there's more content. I've got a review of Gallipoli coming soon. That's the 1981 movie with Mel Gibson. And I want to tell a joke. Americans probably won't like this, but yeah, Americans always seem puzzled when they find out that Australia fought in wars that didn't involve Mel Gibson or E-News. So, yeah, whatever. Hate me if you like. But anyway, I'll see you next time. And until then, yep, keep watching war movies and keep enjoying them. And I'll see you when I see you.